All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's get started. So first off, thank you so much for coming here today. I am going to ask if it is okay if we record this session. The intention is that we can use this for at least educating fellow SMC faculty on these amazing programs about teaching and STEM that we have here at St. Mary's. And there may be some students who perhaps could not make it today, and we may want to use this as some promotional information, that we might make publicly available in the future. Thank you again so much for coming. My name is Dr. Aaron Lee. I'm a member of the physics department here. And before we get started, perhaps my colleagues, we can all go around and kind of share our roles here at St. Mary's and our relation to this program. So again, Aaron Lee, physics and astronomy department. I am currently one of the principal investigators for this new Noyce Scholarship that we'll be talking to you about today. And I'm also just very passionate about how, I love teaching. I love the fact that I'm a teacher and I love getting other people excited about the profession. And I'll pass it to Monica.
Hi, thank you all. Really excited to be here to talk about this program. It is really a remarkable opportunity for St. Mary's students. I am the Associate Dean in the School of Education and have also been involved in teacher education pathways since I joined St. Mary's back in 2009. And I'm really excited. I believe that St. Mary's trains teachers in ways that is really transformative and responds to the needs of students today. So really delighted to be here and talk about this amazing opportunity. And I'm going to hand it over to Shannon to introduce yourself as well.
Thank you, Monica. Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Mauldin. I serve as the Undergraduate Pathways Manager over in the Kalmanovitz School of Education. A large part of what I do, a lot of academic advising. And so when your students have questions about their programs of studies and things like that, please send them my way and be happy to support in that process monitoring. So,
great. Thank you so much. So the action plan here is that we're going to give a probably 30 to 40-ish minute presentation that will cover about 3 big areas. I'm going to kind of give some general overall information about what teaching means as a career in terms of whether or not teachers in the United States seem to even like their job, right? And is the salary even worth it? Should I even consider this career? Spoilers, yes, you should, right? I'm going to hopefully convince yourself that this is an exciting, competitive career that has a lot of opportunity for professional growth as well as job satisfaction. Then Monica's going to take over and talk about, again, why we think St. Mary's is such a perfect place to pursue this career path in terms of the unique ways that we teach our students and our emphasis particularly on social justice and how that pervades our entire curriculum. And then Shannon is going to get into the nuts and bolts, talking a little bit about kind of, okay, now we've got you excited, you're ready to sign up as a major. What is your advising? What is your kind of coursework path line going to look like? And some more details about some of the programs that are available here at St. Mary's for teacher education. And then at the end, we'll have some time for some Q&A. So, why be a teacher? I think, we could all here in the Zoom kind of think about amazing teachers we have had in our lives and kind of the incredible difference that they made, right, in crafting our pathways, even if we don't ultimately become teachers, right? We don't need everyone to become teachers. I want all of you to strongly consider becoming teachers, and I want a lot of you to actually become teachers. But we all know that there's a teacher or teachers in our lives that have made a fundamental difference in shaping the pathway that we ultimately take. And we here at St. Mary's want to find the St. Mary's students that have that passion for STEM, not only STEM, but also have an interest in teaching and providing a pathway. And we want to be able to rather provide them a pathway such that they can make an impact on the future generations through STEM education. And so I thought I would start kind of this program talking a little bit about some of the misconceptions and that have arisen around the teaching profession and give you some actual facts, right? I'm a scientist, I prefer by the facts. So I want to give you some actual data that supports that teaching is an amazing and great career to consider. So I'm going to ask you to very quickly, just take 5 seconds or so, or 10 seconds. And if you had to rank your life on a scale from 0 to 10, where 10 is you're having the best life possible, and 0 is you're currently having the worst life possible, where might you put yourself on this ladder today? Take a second to think about that. What number might you assign? And I'm not going to have anyone share. That's way too personal. But as you think of your number, also think about what things are popping into your head when you consider what is making that number what it is. Like if you're saying 7, what things are making you think 7, right? Is it finances? Is it stability? Is it, what is coming into your mind in terms of what you are finding important about your life and how that ties into your well-being and happiness? And then once you have that number, now let's imagine 5 years have passed. And kind of how I frame it with my advising students, right? 5 years have passed, everything's worked out the way you want it to. How do you think you would rank your life then, 5 years from now? And again, think about what is popping into your mind in terms of what you find important, right, in assessing the quality of your overall life. These are 2 questions that lots of surveys groups use in order to see how different people are doing in different parts of the country or the world. They might, the way that this is usually done, and this is what's called the Cantril self-anchoring scale. So the idea is that the first question, how is your life today, right, kind of gives you a very real assessment based on your, your current well-being of how you think your life is going. And then the second question is giving you, giving the surveyor a sense of how you perceive your future to evolve given your current circumstances. And so if you do this in different parts of the country or with different professions, you might start to get some data that supports kind of how different professions or people in different parts of the country or people at different stages of their career might be ranking their well-being. And so Gallup did this in 2013 with 170,000 people across the entire United States, across all ages, all stages of people's careers, because they wanted to get enough data with people across all sorts of professions and again, across all stages of their careers, such that then they could break it up into subcategories and start to ask questions like, how do different professions rate the quality of their life? And then they ultimately categorized it into kind of one of 3 categories. And on the side, you can see kind of says top, middle, or bottom, right? Where the top people had 7 or greater for question 1, and then 8 or greater on question 2. Middle is kind of everything in the middle, and then a definition for the bottom. And so then they could look and see, if you have a profession that puts lots of people put themselves in the top and not a lot of people put themselves in the bottom, that might be a very strong profession, a profession that really values, that really kind of has, a high self-worth compared to a profession that maybe has an equal amount in the top and the bottom, right? Then it might be a wash versus people that are professions that have, very little in the top, but a lot on the bottom. So first, amazing data point. Did you know that teachers in the United States rate their lives better than all other occupation groups, trailing only physicians? And this is defined kind of based on what I just said. They looked at how many people put themselves in that top category that were teachers compared to the people that put themselves in the bottom category that were teachers, right? And only physicians ranked better, even ranked better than professionals. So professionals would include engineers, scientists, the faculty here. We would be considered kind of part of the professional category, which we're pretty high too. But you got you future teachers, right? Second in of all the professions they analyzed, which is pretty good because I feel like you hear these misconceptions about these horror stories that happen, and then it's very easy to think that's what's happening across all teaching places in the United States. But teachers rate their lives very highly. I'm not quite sure what's going on with transportation. So you can start to ask yourself kind of, what are teachers attributing, right? If teachers are valuing their lives so highly, what is it that really gives them that sense of purpose and well-being? And when they further then interviewed people who identified as teachers, they came up with more or less 6 big categories in terms of why teachers love being teachers. The first is the students. the relationship that they have, the fact that they have this classroom where they really can make a difference and make an honest, earnest connection with these students, right, year after year. And if you're in kind of a high school setting, right, and you can see the same students perhaps over the span of 4 years, right, and you really see them grow as individuals. Another very big one was their day-to-day work schedule. The nice thing about being a teacher is that most of the students go home by like 3:30, right? So from about 3:30 to 5 or so, that is part of the workday, but it's then time that you can then spend, right? Either getting all the other kind of odds and ends of your job kind of taken care of, grading, lesson planning, that whatnot, but also gives you some flexibility in case you have, personal things going on in your life that you need to spend some time with. A very big perk is that if you have a family and are a teacher, the good news is that your schedule rather is going to more or less perfectly align with your family schedule in terms of picking up your own kids and dropping your own kids off at school. You have breaks that are often negotiated well in advance. So you know what the calendar looks like well in advance compared to getting a schedule week to week, for example. The third category was that teaching is very challenging and scientific, especially if you're a STEM teacher, right? You're constantly using your skills that you learned as a STEM professional, not only, right, to better understand the subject matter, but also to think about how you can become better teachers and educators. And then looking a little broader, right, the colleagues, strong relationships between fellow teachers, other committed teachers make amazing coworkers and friends. I can attest to this. A lot of us, that are here as professors, we went to big research institutions to earn our PhDs. I cannot say that the faculty there loved teaching, right? And just coming here and knowing that like everyone in the department, all we mainly care about is trying to teach physics as best as possible, right? That's just amazing to me. So having colleagues that really do care. And then learning new content, learning never ends. Another reason I became a professor is because now I get paid to study. I mean, what's better than that? And then that you have autonomy in the classroom, right? Is that teachers get to decide what happens in their rooms, how they craft the subject, right? That's a lot of responsibility, but it's also, right, so nice to have that freedom that you get to make all the decisions, within kind of basic guidelines of kind of how you craft your classes. So, very cool. Did you know that you can get a job almost anywhere in the US or even abroad as a science or math teacher? Math and science teachers are in incredibly high demand, and there are open positions in this area across the entire nation. There are middle schools and high schools everywhere, but there aren't as many colleges that are training STEM teachers. So the good thing about that is that you then get to be choosy about where you live. That is not something I can say I had. In the university setting, it's kind of what universities are hiring that year. As a STEM teacher in the high school level, you get that choice, which means you can decide if you want to be, working at a place where it's very easy to commute, or want to be near a city or not near a city or near your family. You can't necessarily do that as an engineer, for example. So that's a great flexibility that is worked in. And there's also a high demand for teaching math and science outside of the United States, in English-speaking schools. And this is not to say that this is you go and teach English, right? It's actually referring to kind of English-speaking schools that want English-speaking teachers to go teach math and science, right? So there might even be some flexibility there, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's break down some numbers. I think the biggest misconception that I always hear is that teachers don't get paid very well. Here's some numbers that I hope can dispel that. And these are numbers for Contra Costa that were provided to us from this organization called Get the Facts Out. And I highly, highly recommend you peruse that website at some point. They have a ton of amazing resources and infographics that really help to craft and make clear kind of all of these things that we're talking about today. And particularly what's nice is that the data I'm showing you here, though it's for Contra Costa, you can go to this Get the Facts Out page and you can actually look at data like this for a variety of counties across the entire United States. So if you kind of want to end up, teaching and living in Michigan, for example, you can see kind of what sorts of salaries you might expect from teaching STEM in a county near where you might want to end up. So here's a sense of what's going on here in Contra Costa. Right out of college, you just have a BA and you've gotten your teaching credential. The average salaries in Contra Costa seem like they range between about 58,000 to 72,000, and these are high school STEM teaching salaries that were aggregated here. And you can get a sense of kind of how these numbers change, right? 5 years into the profession, you can see how the range of salaries has increased steadily. One thing about the teaching profession is that I feel like the salary gains really do start to show themselves once you kind of stay in a district, particularly longer term. Kind of salaries that help, loyalty kind of gets rewarded, I guess might be a way of framing that. And so as you go on, you notice that now we switch over to the MA. So the MA column is an idea of kind of typical salaries here in Contra Costa for someone who's been teaching 5 years in the district and has also at this point earned their master's, their teaching master's degree. And then once you get to like mid to late career, 15 years in, you can see that the salaries are typically, and the medians are definitely, at or over $100,000, which ain't too bad. And then these numbers, you got to think now, let's put these numbers in perspective. A perk about being a teacher, you get summers off. So these are, these numbers are, kind of rough 9-month salary. It has it even on the side, 186-day contract, for these typical salaries, which amounts to about $68 per hour when you're making about $100,000. Plus extra pay. This is definitely something I did not really know until putting together this presentation, is that teachers also get on average an additional kind of 1,000 to 8,000, I think is where the medians usually fall, per year for optional activities like coaching, running after school clubs, tutoring, running chess club, those things also come with stipends typically, for your time. So an idea of salaries kind of as teachers, right? And we're going to show you how you're going to be set up here at St. Mary's, right, to get to that MA year 15 track, right, as quickly as possible. A lot of you also might be interested kind of in the business side of things, or especially once you start teaching for a while, you might realize that you really enjoy supporting the building of teachers and the infrastructure around teachers in school districts. So it might be that after you teach for a while, you might consider becoming an administrator, right? Principal or superintendent. And you can see that those salaries are even higher than the teachers. They have slightly longer calendar years, right, compared to teachers, but it's not 365 days. You still get considerable time off, as well as, for all of these professions, as well as, annual leave, sick leave, bereavement, etc. during the year. Now you might say, okay, those salaries sound great, but this is the Bay Area. The Bay Area is expensive, right? Can I even, what can I hope to even do with that salary in the Bay Area? Well, hopefully this gives you some context as well. And this is actually part of an infographic that we'll make publicly available as well. To give you a sense of kind of what a teacher's salary can do for you. In the Contra Costa housing market, a salary of about $65,000, so early in your career, assuming you can see the little, small print, right? 5% down payment, spending this much on your housing, right? Can get you, right, a mortgage, right, in order to buy a house, that kind of, a kind of nice, few bedroom house. And then after you've been teaching for a while and your salary increases, you can get this hopefully gives you a sense of the sorts of property that you would be able to afford here in Contra Costa. And again, they have these for different counties across the United States. So take a look at that website, getthefactsout.org, and look around different areas, and they give you different infographics for different areas. All right. Did you know most teaching jobs actually have better retirement benefits than other jobs you can get with the same degree? And when you look on average how long people stay in the profession before retiring, teachers in the United States typically retire about 4 years or so earlier compared to other occupations that require the same degree. And a reason for this is because teachers typically have state-sponsored pension plans that have been negotiated over years, right? So teacher benefits and pay packages that continually feed into your retirement packages so that you can comfortably retire, or on average a couple of years earlier than anyone else might with the same degree. I won't go into too much detail about this right now, but just to give you a sense, because financial stability might have been one of those things you were thinking about when you paused to to rank your life from 0 to 10. I know definitely something I think about a lot. Just not only can I afford rent now, but am I going to be, what am I going to be able to do 10, 15, 20 years from now? So thinking about retirement, even though you might be 18, 19, right? It's not a bad idea. In California, there's the California State Teachers Retirement System, where if you begin teaching at 22, right, you can get full retirement benefits, after 62, with some very high competitive pensions, right? 80% of your annual income. That doesn't require you to buy into it in any way. There are other jobs where retirements require you kind of to invest money every year into the retirement fund. Teachers usually can avoid having to do that. And then maybe you're not ready to think about retirement, but more short term, you might be thinking about how am I going to pay back these student loans? In this case, teachers and educators typically have opportunities through either the federal government or state governments to get their loans forgiven. For example, I know the federal government has, at least one that I know of is that if you teach for 5 complete consecutive academic years in a low-income school district, you can be eligible for $18,000 in student loan forgiveness. And I think if you teach like up to 10 in education, you can get even more, perhaps all of your student loans forgiven, right? If you're in the education space. So what about even shorter term? You might say, well, could I just not have debt at all? And isn't that the dream? Well, in that case, you might be thinking about scholarship opportunities, right? And the great news is that there's even tons and tons of scholarship opportunities for people who are interested in not only just teaching, but particularly ones that are targeting STEM teachers. I won't go into a lot of detail about these because my colleagues are going to go into a lot of detail about the one on the right. But just to give you some examples, right? And, there are some great California and national ones specific to STEM and teaching, like the Golden State Teacher Grant Program, where you can get up to $20,000 as long as you commit to working in kind of a California priority school for 4 years or so. There's ones as well, like the California Middle Class Scholarship, based on kind of your family income. And the MLK Junior one is one that I know that people have done in the past that can get money for BIPOC students interested in becoming educators, school nurses, school counselors, or school therapists. But the one that is new that we are really excited to talk about is the Robert Noyce Teacher Scholarship and Stipend Program that was started here at St. Mary's. And we're in our first semester. We have 3 amazing scholars that have taken on the scholarship and we have funding for, I believe, about 17 Noyce Scholars over the next 5 years. And just to give you a very broad brush, because you're going to get a lot of details in a bit, right? This is a program that's kind of open to junior and senior STEM majors, where the idea of the program, and again, I think this really accents what makes St. Mary's unique and will make you super, super competitive in the job market, is that you will, the point of the program is it gives you funding to complete your undergraduate education, where you complete your STEM degree, as well as a JCL minor, or Justice, Community, and Leadership minor during your undergraduate years. And if you can get up to about $10,000 per year of undergraduate. So $10,000 for your junior and senior, or if you join as a senior, just $10,000 for your senior. And then you then do 1 year at KSOE, getting your master's in teaching, as well as your single subject teaching credentials. And we give you funding that's about $30,000 for that year to complete the graduate work. And that then helps you get certified as a teacher. You get your master's degree already, right? Think back to those salary numbers, right? You have your master's already. And then again, I think, thinking we are a LaSallian institution, I think this program really does resonate with kind of what we hold important here at St. Mary's, is that you are committing, as part of the scholarship, you are committing to then work for 2 years per year that you get scholarship funding in some sort of high need district, which can be anywhere across the United States. It doesn't have to be necessarily California. And we're going to get a lot more detail. So thank you for listening to my kind of cheerleading section. And I'm going to pass it over to Professor Fitzgerald, who's going to start to get into the St. Mary's nuts and bolts about all of this.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. I mean, I think that one of the amazing opportunities of the Noyce Scholarship is also it's a pretty incredible cohort that you'll be a part of to really get, the best of both worlds in terms of your science and your credential, and to be able to really come out of college relatively debt free. I mean, so it's really amazing. If you can go ahead and forward the next slide. I think one of the really unique and special things about getting your teaching credential at St. Mary's is that, as many of you may or may not know, St. Mary's was actually founded by a teacher trainer. Jean-Baptiste de La Salle actually was one of the very first. He founded an order of Christian brothers and trained them to be teachers. And there's something about the mission of St. Mary's that really looks at the whole person, respect for the individual, the 5 pillars around social justice and concern for the poor. And all of these make this values-based, mission-based education really focuses on issue of inclusion and equity. And so with that, the JCL, Justice, Community, and Leadership minor that these years you would go through as a Noyce student really does help you co-create inclusive classroom experience with a deep equity focused. It's very much a pedagogy based in anti-racism and critical pedagogy to really begin to see communities and difference in a really asset-based approach, which is really critical. All the research shows around education that when you can empower students to be proud of their work and their lived realities, and that you can begin to set higher expectations, that they perform really well. And so one of the other parts of this pathway that is really important is researchers show that students that engage and really understand the larger context of the communities in which they work really are much more successful and develop relationships with families and extended families that also really impact how students in classrooms work, behave, and progress. And so the JCL pathway really does have a lot of what we call community engagement or engaged learning that does that. And that's really a very new best practice. We've got colleges across California now trying to adapt it more, but it's been really part of the curriculum at St. Mary's. You can get a teaching credential in the state of California without taking any classes that center equity and justice. It is possible to get a teaching credential that way. And St. Mary's as a college, as departments, as a university have really committed that we want to teach and train educators who are going to be transformative in the classroom and really meet the needs of all the kinds of students that we have in our classrooms. And I think that's really unique and powerful. There are a lot of colleges in California that still follow an old model of liberal studies. And we are really committed that everyone who goes through our training program is really going to have this equity focus. Not only do you get the equity focus that I think is so important to be a teacher, but you get it in the small classroom sizes in a cohort model where you're really building your expertise, your professionalism as a teacher, your ability to create lesson plans. You're doing that in a cohort in really small classes. And I think that it's really important. This liberal arts education really gives students a really important foundation in STEM. And so entering the STEM fields with this really broad and deep liberal arts equity focused education, I think is pretty remarkable. And it's a big commitment that St. Mary's has made. We could go ahead and go to the next slide. We wanted to give you, Shannon and I are going to give you a little bit of what it means to get a credential in the state of California. So as a teacher training program, we help you meet all of the requirements to become a teacher. And then and you'll take your credential classes, and then the state of California reviews that you completed this program and issues your credential. As Aaron mentioned earlier, 100% of our students walk across that stage, with a job offer. multiple job offers. You're going to really be able, as he said, to really pick your employer. It's a really good time to be a teacher. And I cannot emphasize enough what a great time it is to be a STEM teacher. And as Aaron said, that you're making a commitment to work in an under-resourced community, in a Title IX community. And that could be throughout the Bay Area, or in anywhere actually, in the country. To have a California teaching credential, most people are going to teach in California. The California teaching credential is accepted in a lot of different states. So if you're interested in teaching out of state, certainly our program, our school can help you with that sort of paperwork. A California credential is a highly sought after though. One of the things that we do in the teacher education side of things is, coursework will be in the evenings. So in your 5th year, you're going to be in a classroom at least 3 days a week, sometimes maybe 4 days a week. And then you'll complete your credential and your master's courses in the evenings. And as I said, it's a cohort model, which is really wonderful because not only are you all in it together, but you actually have you're co-creating things that you're going to be able to share together. So then when you enter your first job, you could be at different colleges and different districts, but you've got a LinkedIn support system. And as I said, even in your field placement, you're definitely centering this idea, this critical consciousness or cultural humility. People use sorts of different terms for it, but it gets at this idea of really being asset-based and focusing on developing every individual's potential. Go ahead and switch slides now too. So one of the other great things about becoming a STEM teacher is that in order to receive your credential, you have to show what the state of California calls subject matter competencies. There are a lot of fields where you end up having to take a series of 3 exams called the CSET. And then you pass the CSET and you show subject matter competency. In every one of the STEM related fields that you can become a Noyce Scholar in, you're going to meet subject matter competency through your major, which is phenomenal. Forget test anxiety, which is real. You don't have to take the time. You don't have to spend the money. It doesn't hang over you, that you're going to qualify with your academic major. So that's really important. And we have, and our credential office goes through, we walk you through this kind of every step of the way, all of the things that you need to get into a classroom, which include, your fingerprinting and black background check, you need your CSETs, all of the sorts of things the state of California requires. Shannon and the rest of us in KSOE really walk you through. You'll have a really great advisor within your major and also contacts within the School of Education to really help with that. But this subject matter competency is really, really wonderful that you meet it by your major. Go ahead and switch to the next screen now too. I want to spend a little bit more time talking about what it means to be an equity-focused educator or a reflective practitioner. Because part of this work of doing this kind of transformative education means that you as the teacher are also constantly engaged in your own learning, checking and reflecting on your own perspective, your own experience, and how that impacts how you teach and who's in your classroom. And this, I just wanted to share this rubric for a moment, and I won't take the time to go over it now, but this is what we call, we use this as a tool of critical consciousness. And all of our students use it. Our placement supervisors, who are kind of your coaches that go watch you in the classroom, they use this as a way to reflect on you and your students, and it includes like knowledge of the learner. How do you know your student? Knowledge of yourself. What are you learning about yourself, right? What are the larger socio-political dynamics at your school and in the community and in the nation that you can use? And how do you assess and create assignments in ways that really promote each individual's experience? So this is something in our program you'll get to know a little bit better, but I wanted to expose you here today because I really do want to emphasize that teaching training program at St. Mary's is really way ahead of the curve in what you're getting at most universities across the country, because we really are deeply committed to creating classrooms that promote everybody's full potential. I think that's one of the lovely benefits of working at a college with such a strong mission. Go ahead and switch the slide. And Shannon, do you want to talk to him a little bit more detail about what the curriculum looks like?
Absolutely, thank you. So here you'll see our course curriculum. So as mentioned before, in the undergraduate year, you're going to major in your STEM, BA, or BS classes. So whether that's math, bio, any of those that you see listed there. And then you'll also take on the JCL SIST minor classes. So those classes include the Intro to JCL class, the STEM education for a more just world, your upper division JCL elective, and then the 3 teacher education classes. Then once you graduate, students will go on and they will enter their graduate that 5th year, that +1 year, where they'll finish and complete their credentialing courses, their field experiences, as well as their Masters of Arts in Teaching classes. Next slide, please. So here's just more detail of what those classes look like, as well as the timing. So as you can see here, as I already stated, you're majoring in your STEM focus classes, and then you're minoring in the JCL SIST courses. As you can see at the bottom, with the teacher education classes, these are our 3 TED classes that they'll take in the undergraduate year. If you can go to the next slide. Now, this one's pretty cool. So when you graduate and you're entering and you're ready to take on your grad classes, the first term for that grad year starts in the summer. Students that did not do the JCL SIST pathway, they end up having to take the 3 TED classes that you would have already taken in the undergraduate year. So you would be essentially starting at that SIST 515, that Foundations of Secondary Education class. So you'll have that 1 class to take during the summer start. From there, you'll just matriculate through. You'll go into that second term, that fall, taking these classes here, that instructional design class, plus the lab piece. And then you see that fieldwork seminar and that fieldwork supervision. That's when you'll start your student teaching hours. So those 600 hours, you'll begin here. There are about 250 hours you'll be completing this fall. And then you'll go into that third term, that Jan term. You'll take your Ed TPA class. That one's more so you'll be recording yourself teach and things like that. They have that's where you build your portfolio, I'll say. And then you'll go on into that SIST 576 class, your health education class. Next slide. That 4th term, so this is the final spring term of your 5th year. You're finishing up your credentialing courses. You're finishing up that last 350 hours of the total 600 field work and your student placement there, you'll see. And then in that 5th year, that 5th term summer, you will begin your Masters of Arts in Teaching classes. And as you can see, it's just a period of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 courses that you'll be taking during that 5th term summer. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at some of the tuition and fees and just see why being a Noyce Scholar is going to behoove you to go this route. So traditionally speaking, so a traditional SIST student that did not take the JCL SIST 4+1 minor, just someone maybe from another institution that decided to pursue their teaching credential here at St. Mary's, they would be paying that $1,085 per unit for 35 units. They would then pay the $1,130 per unit for the 12 units for that Masters of Arts in Teaching. So we're just going to break it down some more. So that 35 units for the credential, multiply that by 1,085. A traditional SISD student would be paying $37,975 plus the additional 12 units that you would be for earning your Master's of Arts in Teaching, which would total to around $51,535. Whereas a Noyce Scholar, remember, you've already jump-started earning your credential in the undergraduate year. So in that 5th year, you only have that 26 units. So you multiply that by the 1,085, you're paying $28,210. And you add on the additional $13,560. But wait, you don't forget that you get the $30,000 scholarship to add to this total. So if without this scholarship, you would be paying $41,770. But by becoming a Noyce Scholar, you could potentially pay $11,770. Not to mention the fabulous grants that we also saw previously. So that Golden State Teacher Grant, you can get awarded up to $20,000 with that. So by being a Noyce Scholar, you could potentially pay $0 for your single subject teaching credential, as well as a Master's of Arts in Teaching. Next slide. So how to become a Noyce Scholar. So who can apply? Prospective scholars must be pursuing a BA or BS in STEM discipline at St. Mary's College, and you must intend to pursue the STEM teachers JCL 64+1 pathway. Next slide, please. Here are just some of the scholars' responsibilities, right? So students that want to become a Noyce Scholar, they're going to sign a contract that outlines the following below. So that they're going to continue on the STEM Teachers for JCL pathway. They must maintain a 2.75 GPA. They are expected to participate in all activities related to the Noyce Scholarship, and they must continue into the credential and master's degree program following completion of the undergraduate degree, and a commitment to teach for a minimum of 2 years in a high-need public district in California for each year of scholarship support. All this must take place within that 6 years following the completion of the SISD credential. Next slide, please. Here are more of the application requirements. So when students go on and they say, okay, I want to pursue this route, you'll just complete an application that includes a little bit of your background and demographic, as well as an essay of up to 750 words on why you want to become a Noyce Scholar. Next slide. So if you have any other questions just about the scholarship program, the application, please reach out to Dr. Erin Lee or Dr. Vidya, and of course, your advisor. But if you have questions regarding just the pathway and maybe just more on the programmatic things, please reach out to myself or Dr. Monica Fitzgerald for any additional information. And of course, if you need to find the application, as you see here, please save this link, and yeah, you will find all the information you need.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I think this just demonstrates, not only what a tremendous program it is, but how streamlined it is for you, right? In order to go from undergraduate at St. Mary's to someone holding a master's degree, right? Doing social justice oriented, amazing STEM teaching across the country. And I'll point out, there was a comment of that you would participate in all Noyce Scholar activities. I realized I didn't say what those might include. So not only is the scholarship program kind of helping you, cultivate a kind of social justice minded pedagogy approach to STEM teaching, there's a lot of mentoring and social and professional development opportunities that you will also participate in as a Noyce Scholar. For example, the Noyce Scholars this Friday, we're reading, sections from this book, and we're having essentially a Noyce Scholars book club, talking about just, what learning looks like. So we're having a book club this semester, and We also are collaborating with the Mount Diablo Unified School District. So there will also be opportunities for you to actually interact and get some mentorship from actual STEM teachers in the area. With the idea that as this program continues, we hope not just for 5 years, but that we'll get renewed and do this lots and lots and lots of years, that we'll cultivate and create a strong, amazing SMC network of Noyce Scholars, right, that you can then have as yet another network, right, to lean on and reach out to for anything that you might need. I guess before we
Yeah,
go,
Aaron.
go.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say one last thing, because this was a lot of information, and sometimes students start thinking about this and they're like, oh, it's too late for me, or I need to take so many classes. I just want students to know, reach out to Aaron and Shannon and me. We want to make this work for you. And so this is one of the other things that I love about St. Mary's. We can modify a schedule for you and figure out how to make it work and fit it in. So if this is something you're interested in, don't think it's too late for you to jump into this, because you've got a whole college of folks that are here to try and make a pathway possible. So I just wanted to add that in, because I know sometimes people are like, wait a second, I'm just finishing my sophomore year or my junior year, or and I want to study abroad. Can I make that work? Don't hesitate. We are all here and would be happy to speak with you.
We'll figure out a way. Yeah,
I'll figure out a way.
You could be a senior right now, and I say you could still apply. You're right. We will figure it out, right? And so the way that would work is you would still retain your STEM advisor, but you will also get feedback from probably everyone in the Zoom room right now. And at some point, one and another throughout your time as a Noyce Scholar. Let's see. Any final thoughts before we go over to the Q&A? Which I'll stop recording that in case people want to unmute themselves and whatnot. But assuming you're watching digitally, that means this has been made publicly available. If this is on YouTube or something like that, presumably I have also included some sort of link in the description or the caption. That should be a link that provides you to a Google Drive that will have copies of these slides, as well as some additional infographics from Get the Facts Out that might be interesting to peruse at some time. Let me thank my colleagues again for their contributions to this talk. And as Professor Fitzgerald said, reach out, right? If you have any questions or just curious and want to talk more about it, we're all here. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.